I think the past year in Call of Duty actually really summarizes what is going on with the video games industry as a whole. In the past year, we had a complete and utter failure that was Concord. You had Helldivers 2, which had extreme success and was an extreme failure all at the same time. And then we had the downfall of the live service industry with games like Suicide Squad. But with all of this, it seems that more than ever, Call of Duty is pushing in a further and further direction that is the live service model. And over the past year, it begs some questions with what the decisions that Modern Warfare 3 made. Having a completely unfinished campaign to a multiplayer which was supported in the post seasons better than really any COD in recent or distant history. With the year coming to a close and Modern Warfare 3 coming to an end with the launch of Black Ops 6, I wanted to put out my thoughts on Modern Warfare 3 and the last year as a whole. So what this video is my final review of Modern Warfare 3, and also to finally answer the question, was Modern Warfare 3 simply a $70 DLC?
The meaning of true power.
Available November 10th. Pre-order and play the campaign now.
Campaign early access. Modern Warfare 3 will probably be the last time we hear of that because of how bad the campaign actually was. I was going to make this review of the campaign a little bit more complex, but I think really with Modern Warfare 3, it comes down to two separate things and two separate areas where it completely fell apart. And I feel like I can make this actually a lot more simple than I have seen on YouTube. So the way that I'm going to do this is separate this into two different components, the gameplay and the story, because I think both are bad in their own rights for two very different reasons. So let's start with the gameplay. So for this part, we need to completely put the story aside. I believe that there were three good missions in Modern Warfare 3. The very first of which, where you don't play as a good guy, you play as the Coney Ultranationalist, where you are getting prisoner 627, aka Vladimir Makarov, breaking him out of the prison. That is one good mission. Good mission number two was the mission on Verdansk. I believe it was called Operation Flashpoint, where we actually get to go back to the past, to the beginning of Verdansk, and see that original raid. It filled in some information on the past in Verdansk, and the gameplay of it was actually pretty decent. The final one that I thought was good was the winter mission, the one where you went in and you basically had all of Task Force 141 on one mission, and including General Shepard was there as well. I have a feeling that all three of these missions were really the only three missions that were actually planned out for Modern Warfare 3 as a whole. I think the rest of the game was completely unfinished, and they panicked to actually put together a cohesive campaign because the only missions that were actually finished were these ones. Now, there were two other missions that I also believe were finished, but they were incredibly short, and I don't even consider them playable missions. Number one was the No Russian 2.0 mission, where you were on the airplane. There is barely any gameplay on there whatsoever, and really when you look at it, it is more so a playable cutscene. Similarly, there is another mission where you play as Kate Laswell breaking into the Russian military base, actually once again in Verdansk, called Arklov Military Base. Now, when you break in there, this is like a 5-minute mission at the very, very most. They fit into the campaign as a whole, but again, they don't really complete the game. They're not a fun gameplay experience. Once again, they're more so just a playable cutscene. Now, there was one other mission, but I'm going to get to that at the end of the campaign part. You'll see why. But the rest of the campaign, essentially almost all of it, is what they called open combat missions. Now, I want to go back a little bit to when they announced Modern Warfare 3 and actually explain to us what these were.
Modern Warfare 3 introduces open combat missions, which for the first time allows players the choice of how to complete objectives based on their preferred playstyle. Open combat missions are part of the campaign. They're part of the story, but you get to play them in the way that you want to play them. Those who like stealth gameplay can play it stealthily. Those who like to snipe, or if you like vehicles, or if you like to go guns and blazing, all of those options are supported and afforded to you as a player.
So what is crazy to me is that they tried to put these open combat missions into the campaign, not just as filler, but they tried to put them in as actually a selling point for the game. And let's be honest, I kind of see what they were doing, adding in replayability, going back in and trying to find all of the weapons, stashes, and things like that throughout a mission. Like, I understand it, but the way that they were done completely removed the lack of immersion. It didn't feel like if I finished the mission by sneaking around, or whether I went in and blew everything up, there was no different outcome. It was just playing the mission in a different way. It didn't amplify the story of the game, and it didn't improve the way the game felt at all. In fact, it made it feel a lot worse. It made it feel like they just had these maps pre-made and they just decided to throw some easy sort of combat on top of it, which to me didn't really feel good. And not to mention, most of the missions within this game, I would say at least half of them, are open combat missions. And because of that, you're just staring at a mini-map, going in the direction that it's telling you, and honestly, they're just really, really boring missions to play. But oddly, yeah, the gameplay was bad, but nothing is worse than the story of Modern Warfare 3. So originally, I was going to go into a deep dive, walking you through this entire story and explaining bit by bit why the story is horrible and horribly written. But I think I found a way that I can do it a little bit better. I'm going to point out a couple of plot points in this story, and I want to explain them to you in a way that somewhat makes sense. Let me explain what I mean. So, one of the most iconic and one of my favorite missions in this game is when we go back to Verdansk, Operation Flashpoint. And in this mission, Makarov is attacking Verdansk Stadium, telling us that in 2019, he was the one that originally led the attack on Verdansk. And by the end of the mission, we find out that he attacked the stadium to distract that he was actually attacking the airport. So let's play a quick game here. Why was Makarov attacking Verdansk? What was the reasoning behind it? Did he hate Verdansk? Did he want it to start a war? Why was he attacking Verdansk? We all understand that he attacked the stadium to distract his attack from the airport, but why attack Verdansk? That was not once explained throughout the entirety of the campaign. Oh, but there are so many more plot holes than just that. Another example of this is in one of the more iconic missions when they try to do No Russian 2.0. They set up this mission where Vladimir Makarov plans an attack on this airplane. And when he does so, he's trying to frame one of the old Urzikstan Liberation Forces soldiers. And in doing so, he does this to frame Urzikstan as terrorists. This is a very similar thing that happened in the original Modern Warfare 2, but in Modern Warfare 2, we knew why Makarov hated America. Let me ask you the same question I asked before. Why does Makarov hate Urzikstan? Why is he trying for the entirety of Modern Warfare 3 to frame Urzikstan as terrorists? Why? It was never once explained through the entire campaign. His motivations were just never there. And believe it or not, I actually think I know why. It's because the campaign wasn't finished. I truly believe there was supposed to be an entire other set of missions involving Vladimir Makarov being an apprentice to Roman Barkov, the bad guy from Modern Warfare 2019. Why do I say this? Because there was one point before the launch of Modern Warfare 3 where the voice actor for Roman Barkov tweeted out saying that he was looking forward to Modern Warfare 3, because most likely he was going to be in it. But nowhere to be found inside the entirety of Modern Warfare 3 was Roman Barkov. The other thing that wasn't found through the entirety of Modern Warfare 3 was any motivation whatsoever as to why Makarov hated Urzikstan and wanted to attack Verdansk. There was no motivation in there other than he's just really, really evil. So narratively, we have this villain who is supposed to be the most evil villain in all of Call of Duty, or at least one of them, that has no motivation because they didn't explain to us what he was doing or why. He just started doing stuff on Verdansk and started doing stuff to Urzikstan. So there was that, but then there was also the end of the game. And if you don't know what happens at the very end of the game, basically we were playing as Task Force 141. There's a dirty bomb in a tunnel within the UK. We go in there and try to defuse it. And when we do, Vladimir Makarov comes in, shoots Soap McTavish in the head, and then runs off into the distance. And guess what? That is the end of the game. That is it. Vladimir Makarov runs off, and not even in the seasons of multiplayer or Warzone is it explained where Makarov goes, what he is doing, or why he was doing any of the things that he was doing. It was never even really explained why he had a bomb in the tunnel. Never. So anyway, by the end of the game, we just know that Vladimir Makarov is out in the wild, and very clearly, very clearly, the reason why the campaign was like this, why there was never any explanation for anything that happened, is because they just didn't have time to finish this campaign. This campaign was something that was probably supposed to be crafted by Infinity Ward, and then got handed off to Sledgehammer to put out a game 1 year later, and in doing so, didn't give them enough time to actually build and craft and finish out a narrative. Because I bet you somewhere out there is a fully written narrative that maybe we get in Modern Warfare 4, but for now was just not able to be finished in time. So we got this botched together story, which was pieced together by open world or open combat missions that was never completed and never made any sense whatsoever. But if you ask me, the real downside to this is that I actually think there's a really cool idea that could have been done here. Because what I truly believe was supposed to happen with this Modern Warfare 3 story, or at least part of it, is it was supposed to be Captain Price's descent into darkness. Him realizing that he needs to cross more lines in order to protect those who are close to him. So him at the very end of the campaign going and taking out General Shepard is essentially leaving no loose ends for him to kind of get screwed over later on. And now he has kind of gone rogue and is off in the distance and could have painted a really cool Modern Warfare 4, but because Makarov is just off in the distance somewhere doing something that we don't know about, this whole plot line that could have been really cool going into Modern Warfare 4 is now just a jumbled mess. Before Modern Warfare 3, I considered Call of Duty Vanguard to be the worst Call of Duty campaign of all time. I thought it was absolutely horribly written and horribly done. But I played Vanguard and Modern Warfare 3 back to back, the campaigns. And Vanguard is a much better playing, gameplay-wise, and a much better narratively written game than Modern Warfare 3. And that's not to say Vanguard's campaign is good at all. That just speaks to how horrible the Modern Warfare 3 campaign is written and how horrible it plays. And it's unfortunate because really, as I've talked about in a recent video, the other Modern Warfare campaigns are actually pretty damn good, and I would even go as far as to say some of the best parts of those games as a whole. Modern Warfare 3, really garbage. Alright, so zombies. This one I'm going to cover relatively quickly. As far as zombies go in this game, really when the game launched, this was the only thing that they really took at all a risk with. It was really the only thing that was brand new, fresh, and exciting with the launch of Modern Warfare 3. It essentially combined zombies with DMZ, and as we know, DMZ was no longer being kind of taken care of, updated, anything along those lines, so zombies stepped into the fold and kind of filled that position. No, it wasn't PvP. And yeah, there were rumors that it was going to eventually become PvP, but it never did. And in fact, it never did a lot of things. For the most part, what you saw is what you got with zombies. The game came out and there was a bunch of really cool things you could do. Number one, the zombies camos I think were really awesome. And yes, they nerfed some weird things like exfil farming, which was kind of pointless for them to nerf if you ask me. But for the most part, at the beginning, the launch of the game, you could go into the different zones, try to unlock various different schematics, and let's be honest, there was a lot of problems. There should have been a wallet system implemented into the game where you could bring your essence out and bring it back into your next game so you could immediately hop into that tier 3 zone. That was never there and never really became there. Also, crashing. In a mode like this, if the game is going to consistently crash, you are going to lose everything you just worked for and everything that you tried to earn. You could spend hours grinding for things, and when the game crashed, it was just all gone. And I think that was probably the biggest reason why this mode lost players. It was just far too frustrating. Now, coming from someone who only played this mode solo, I think this was another problem with the mode. It was a very difficult mode, especially if you were trying to do Easter eggs to play solo. Yes, could you do the Warlord solo? Yeah. Could you do tier 3 solo? Yes. But as soon as you got into those Easter eggs and trying to get those brand new schematics that came out every single season, it was extremely difficult to do solo. And I really do believe in a mode like this, if you want it to excel, it needs to be able to be done. It can be difficult, but able able to be done solo. Exfil streaks eventually became the thing in a certain way, but again, took a really long time. And I think what you can see from Zombies as a whole over the entirety of this year is that it was just something that was created and then almost forgot about. And yeah, Treyarch was the one that originated it, and then halfway through the support for it, I think it was like around season 2 or season 3, it was just handed off, and no longer was Treyarch in charge of almost all of the development of it. Yes, the story was really great. Yes, they did a good job with the Easter eggs, and that was pretty much it. Unfortunately, it didn't get supported in the way that I think it should have. And in fact, I think if this mode was supported extremely well, this could have been a very, very good mode. And this isn't the first time that we saw this. We also saw this the year before with DMZ. DMZ came out and it had this really supportive community behind it. A lot of people really, really loved it as an extraction shooter, and then it just didn't get the love, it didn't get the updates, and I think because they were afraid of it, they just didn't support it. Call of Duty has gotten to this really, really lame situation where they are afraid to do anything new. They're afraid to create a game that isn't titled Modern Warfare or isn't titled Black Ops. They are afraid to create a new mode and put a bunch of time and effort into developing it and then have it crash and burn. And let's be honest, it makes sense. Going back once again and looking at Concord, a game that they put like $400 million into, to immediately have it come out and flop is a stressful thing for a producer and a stressful thing for a game studio to actually go through. So when we have these side modes that they put this time and effort into and people really enjoy, but then are never supported, the question is why? And the real answer is because they know they can hit a home run or at least a triple with a game mode like multiplayer or Warzone or campaign and have the Modern Warfare sticker on it or have the Black Ops sticker on it. And when they try to do something new like Modern Warfare Zombies or they try to do something new like DMZ, it becomes scary and they can't get the green flag to have an entire studio work on that one mode because they simply don't know if it will succeed. So yeah, I really do think Modern Warfare Zombies could have been something incredible if it was supported in the way that everything else was. And I guess that brings us into the final mode, and that would be multiplayer. So at this point, we have one new thing with Modern Warfare Zombies. We have the campaign, which was completely unfinished, and then at the launch of the game, we had multiplayer. Now, when multiplayer came out, it was coming off, in my opinion, one of the worst years of Call of Duty multiplayer ever. Modern Warfare 2 was a complete piece of garbage, and Sledgehammer was put with that piece of garbage in their lap and said, fix this because you have a whole year of this that people need to play. Very difficult job to do. And on top of that, when we're releasing it, we are releasing it with all of the weapons that are already in there, all of the attachments that are already in Modern Warfare 2. You're going to add new weapons and we're going to put in 16 remastered maps and absolutely zero new ones. So when the game came out, no wonder people were saying, oh, this is just $70 DLC. Essentially, it was, but I think the big difference between Modern Warfare 3 and Modern Warfare 2 is the actual gameplay experience. They took out the crappy perk system that Modern Warfare 2 had and implemented a new one. Is it the best one ever? No, by no means am I saying that, but it is much better than Modern Warfare 2's was. They fixed the movement, they fixed a bunch of the gameplay mechanics, and yeah, it was just a better version of Modern Warfare 2, once again tying into the DLC aspect of it. There were no new maps, so for those of you who are like me who played Modern Warfare 2 back in the day, for yeah, the first couple weeks we had a big boost of nostalgia playing these old maps, but at the same time, because they were old maps, very, very quickly did we get sick of all of these new maps. But on top of that, we also had new weapons and a whole bunch of new camos to grind, so that got us through that initial period. But it was the time after this where Sledgehammer actually proved themselves. And before they did that, there were definitely some problems with some certain new aspects to Modern Warfare 3's multiplayer, one of which was called Armory Unlocks. And essentially what happened with this is normally in a Call of Duty game, you can just level up and unlock everything right away, but they locked a bunch of items that were literally gameplay items behind either getting wins or completing daily challenges, making them way longer to earn than otherwise would have in previous Call of Duty games, which I don't think made sense for the launch of the game, but at the same time, these armory unlocks ended up being integral for the overall gameplay and the way that the seasons worked within Modern Warfare 3. So for a launch system, did not work at all, but became integral when we start to look at what they did throughout the rest of the year. Now, gameplay wise, I don't think Modern Warfare 3 is anything amazing or anything awful. There wasn't really any gameplay elements where I'm like, wow, that was amazing. Maybe if they added specialist streaks in, or maybe, I don't know, if there was just nothing that really stood out and made me go, wow. Whereas when I played the Black Ops 6 just beta, the movement and the way that the game felt a little bit more arcadey kind of separated itself from other Call of Duties. Essentially, the way that I look at the gameplay of Modern Warfare 3 is just a much better version than Modern Warfare 2019 was and Modern Warfare 2 was. So did I love those games multiplayer wise enough to make this one incredible? No, but it was a better version of those multiplayer wise. I don't think there is any denying that whatsoever. So then we have what they really knocked out of the park, and I think what this is the post-launch content. Now, don't get me wrong, I hated all of the seasonal cutscenes. There was no story in them whatsoever, and that once again just goes back to what we talked about with the story of the campaign. However, the content inside them multiplayer wise is, I truly believe, more than we have ever got for any other game. Now, I didn't love all of the different map remakes where they were just skins on different maps, but we got a ton of new and exciting maps, more than we have ever gotten any Call of Duty game before. And yeah, maybe that's because they remastered 16 to begin with, so all they could do was put out new ones, but needless to say, more maps than I think we've ever seen. On top of that, the weekly events and weekly challenges I think were absolutely amazing and a great way of getting people to come back week in and week out. The prestige system sucked in this game, so creating something new with these weekly challenges was absolutely amazing, and something that they have already stated will not be returning in Black Ops 6, which I think a lot of people are going to be very strongly disappointed with, because out of anything that they did within Modern Warfare 3, I truly believe that this is one of those great things. So here's the thing with multiplayer. I think we are going to look back on this game and say, you know what, it was a pretty decent multiplayer. But the problem was is Sledgehammer was handed a pile of garbage with what Modern Warfare 2 was. And yeah, they didn't make that garbage any better with campaign. However, with zombies and multiplayer, they took that pile of garbage and shined it really hard to the point where it almost didn't look like garbage anymore. But the problem is, when you start with garbage, it's very hard to turn into anything else. And you can look at it in another way, saying, well, one man's trash is another man's treasure. But I think when you start in such a bad place, to get to the point to where they got with Modern Warfare 3, I think everyone will look back and say that at the very least was pretty impressive. But the question is, was it DLC? So if I'm being completely honest with you, what is Call of Duty year in and year out? Generally speaking, it is the same sort of game on a relatively similar engine with a new setting, new maps, new weapons, and a new story. Really, if you think about it, every single year of Call of Duty is simply a DLC. But the difference with Call of Duty is compared to something like NCAA or Madden or NHL or FIFA, any of those sort of games that come out year after year after year. When you look at those, really the only thing that's updated is maybe a little bit of graphics, the rosters change, and maybe one or two gameplay elements. Call of Duty changes all of these things year after year. And yes, I truly believe with the lack of setting change of Modern Warfare 3, it has caused a bigger issue to come to the front. We now see that this is a problem, with Call of Duty just being DLC for the previous year. So at the beginning of the year, I would completely agree. This was simply DLC, but with all of the updates and changes that happened throughout the year, we got further and further away from that statement. And I would say this. If you say that Modern Warfare 3 was a $70 DLC, what do you say about EA releasing a new sports game like Madden year in and year out? Are those simply $70 DLCs, or is that a brand new game every single year? Because if you ask me, there is no game on the market that releases year after year after year that makes as many changes as Call of Duty. That is just the plain and simple truth. Whether that be new weapons, new mechanics, new settings, new maps, new modes, every single year, Call of Duty is doing something new. And yes, it may be a little bit more similar to some years than others to the previous game. But if you compare any other game that is coming out year in and year out, you have to say that those are DLCs as well. Were there horrible elements to Modern Warfare 3? Yes, absolutely. I truly believe it had one of the worst campaigns in Call of Duty of all time. Was the multiplayer better supported than any other multiplayer of all time? Yes, but was it the best? I also don't think so. And Zombies was something new and a shot in the dark at something that we had yet to be seen. Did it fully land? No, I don't think so. But was this a bad year of Call of Duty? If you're here for the campaign, yes. But if you were here for everything else and you were along for the ride, I think most people would probably say that they had a relatively decent time. So to answer the question, was Modern Warfare 3 simply $70 DLC? I mean, technically, yeah. I think most years of Call of Duty actually are. But what needs to change in order for us to consider a game brand new, fresh, and exciting? Does it just need to be the setting? Does it need to change a time period? Do we have to have a certain amount of maps or a certain amount of weapons? How much does it need to change after launch? I don't think it matters whether or not it is DLC. What I think matters is how much time you can spend on it. Do you enjoy playing it? And at the end of the day, is it going to last another year for you? And if that answer was no, I'm going to play it for 3 hours and think it completely sucks, then this would probably be pretty bad DLC. But if it's going to last you an entire year and you're going to have moments where you thoroughly enjoy it, whether it be called DLC or not, the question I have for you is, does it really matter?
We are